Hi, I'm Jay Andrews. Welcome to Laguna Tools. Today, we're going to cover the Flux Cyclone Dust Collection Systems, and specifically, we're going to go through and do a complete assembly to show you how to get your Cyclone up and out of the box and into your shop. Now, this is how the Flux Cyclone is going to show up into your shop. It'll be on a pallet with a large box around it. You want to give it a quick inspection to make sure that there's no external damage. Now, there's a lot of foam padding on the inside here, so the likelihood that you're going to have damaged components is very little, but if there is any damage on it, make a note on your shipping receipt with the carrier. All right, as we open up the box, you'll find that there's quite a few parts up in the top, and none that are more important here than the owner's manual. Take this out, read and follow the instructions that are inside. You may want to do a complete read-through at first. You'll also find that the remote control for the unit is located in this bag. You may want to also open this book up and just follow along page by page as you're doing the assembly. The first step is to get all the parts out of the box. We'll take these all out and start laying them on the bench. Now, the easiest way to get to the lower components on the inside is to not fight the styrofoam on the top, but just slice the edge of the box open. And if you do it right at a corner, you've got it backed up by one of these corner support braces, so you're not going to damage any components. Watching for any loose pieces that might fall out. Now just cut the tape away from these corner braces and lift them out of your way. Wiggle the top styrofoam up and out of the way. Now that we're working our way down to the bottom of the crate here, you'll see that the splitter assembly is tucked right into the bottom of the filter cartridge assembly here. So let's go ahead and take this out of the way before we take the filter out. This is a great spot that you're going to need someone to help you lift it. I'll grab this end, I'll have someone grab the far end. Gently lift and slide out the filter. Now one person can manage this. Set the metal end down. And next remove the pieces of the drum. Now, there's a few parts during the assembly of this that you're going to need a second person to help you out, or even a third sometimes. The bottom base piece is kind of heavy, really heavy, and you want to take this and lift it up and out of the box. And what I found is easy is to break these sides away, get one or two people to help you, and lift this up and out and get it onto the floor. Let me go ahead and do that now. The first thing we want to do is open up the small parts box and lay all the parts aside. We've got our hardware bags, we've got our gasketing material, wrenches that we'll use for assembly, and finally we're getting down close to the casters in the bottom. And as you're unpacking this box, to save this box, you're going to use this at the very next step. Okay, to bring this box in, lay it down. I've put down one of these little packing mattress pads here, or moving pads, on the ground. I've set the base unit of the dust collector on here, and we're going to tip it over on its side, and this box is going to support the motor assembly as we're laying it over on its side. With the box on its end, you'll see that the motor comes down and rests on this. Right now there's not much weight on this, but when we start working at the bottom end, we'll need this support. Now, the first step in the assembly is a little bit of disassembly. We want to remove the base from the frame of the machine. There's 2 bolts behind the first upright support, 2 here, and 2 up in the front. You're going to want to have somebody help you out when we open the doors and hold those open. I've already unpacked the wrenches that come with the machine. Those will take care of most all the nuts and bolts. You may also want to have a ratchet, a screwdriver, possibly some needle nose pliers as well. Now, you can use the factory wrenches to loosen these nuts and bolts, but I find that a ratchet makes this process a little bit easier and way faster. Okay, as you remove these bolts, save them because you're going to reinstall them in the bottom of these same posts. Now, there's 6 bolts that attach the lower base frame to these upright supports. I've removed 2 here on the top and 2 on the bottom. There are 2 more on the inside of the cabinet. Simply open the cabinet door and get someone to help you and to support the door as you're taking these off so you don't strain the hinges, or alternatively you can rest it against a chair. Let's grab these last 2 bolts right here. Now that all the bolts are removed, we'll simply lower and remove this frame assembly. And let's go ahead and flip it over and install the casters. Now that the frame is upside down, I've laid out these casters, and these will be the swiveling casters that have the plate. Let's go through and get these installed. Now I'll just snug these down, and I'm going to repeat the process on the other 3 corners. All right, now that we've got all the casters on, we'll go ahead and flip the base over and get ready for the next step. Now the next step is to install these lower support panels, and they're numbered 1, 2, and 3. You'll see these little markings that are right here on the top, and those will correspond with the positions that we're going to install them onto the mobile base. We're going to attach these to the mobile base using the nuts and bolts that we removed from the lower base when it was attached to the upper structure. So these are going to end up going in the middle and raise this upper structure up. So we'll use those same bolts again, and we're going to pay attention to these numeric designations to get them in the right location. The markings on the lower upright support panels will actually correspond with the markings that are on the upper upright support panels. You'll see these called out in the owner's manual, so make sure that you pay attention to the markings on these, as those will correspond with the lower uprights as well. Now the panel marked with the number 1 is going to go right up here on the head, or the short end of the lower stand. We'll drop it in position and use the bolts that we had lined up and tighten it down. And finally secure these with a ratchet. Now panel number 3 is going to go on the left hand side as you're sitting in the opening for the lower base. And the holes in these uprights should actually straddle and go over the insert nuts, so you should feel that kind of be locked in position. And now install the bolts. And finally, panel number 2 is going to go on the right hand side of the lower frame. And just repeat this process one more time. Now it's time to install the foam tape here on the top of the air inlet cylinder for the Cyclone. And before you do that, you want to know which is the top and the bottom. And when you have this sitting on the bench and you're facing the window from the front, you want to make sure that the air inlet side is on your left. So in this orientation, this will be the top. We're going to go ahead and put that foam seal right around the top. Now it's just a simple matter of peeling and sticking the foam tape. You can start just about anywhere you want, and you want to start on the inside of these screw holes. And work your way around. Now that I've got the seal all the way around, I'm going to bring the razor knife up and just trim the ends so that they're flush, and then make sure that it's pressed down thoroughly all the way around. Now we're going to do the same procedure here with the Cyclone funnel. We're going to apply the foam tape not just to the top, but the top and bottom flanges now. Now we're going to go ahead and flip over the funnel section, and we're going to install the foam tape on the bottom as well. You'll notice that there's a tag right here, and there was also a tag on the cylinder that we just did. And these give you some instructions for when you begin to bolt these items together. Go ahead and leave those in place until you're ready to bolt everything up. Alright, now I have that foam seal pressed in place. You'll notice that this bottom flange has a little bit of movement to it, and that's what this tag addresses, and we're going to cover that later, but it's normal to have a little bit of play in this flange. Now we're going to repeat that process on this upper flange of the inlet cylinder. Okay, I've got that one trimmed up and ready to go. Now your foam tape just needs to go around here and be nice and flat. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100% straight. This is going to form the seal between these components as they mate together and keep dust from spreading throughout your machine. Now find the bag here that says Cyclone Vane on it. And what these are four special bolts that are going to hold the inlet tube on the inside of the Cyclone. And the reason that they're special is they have a little lock washer on them. And because they're on the inside of the unit, they want to make sure that they've got that lock washer in place. Use these 4 bolts to attach the Cyclone tube on the inside. Now it's time to take the air cylinder and to mount it to the bottom of the fan assembly. We're going to use 4 bolts to do that. And you've got the cyclonic marking right up in front here, and this will actually kind of show you the cyclonic action of this unit when it's in motion. This will actually face the window that's in the outer drum assembly. So you want to take this and face it toward the front so that you'll be able to see this and watch the dust passing in front of this as the unit is running. Hold it in place and put it in 4 bolts. Now snug these down with a wrench, but don't over tighten them since they're going right into sheet metal. Now it's time to install the inlet cylinder onto the Cyclone here, and we're going to go through and we're going to bring it right in up and over the barrel that we just installed. And you can install it just this way where it's pointing out the front. You want to make sure that the intake cylinder is going to be on the left-hand side of the machine or on the bottom as it's laying on its side. And you can actually rotate this and install it up to 60 degrees turned in this direction or in 30 degrees the other direction. We're going to put it on pointed straight forward for this demonstration, but you can rotate it a little bit based on your shop needs. I think I'm just going to start a bolt or 2 to hang it on, and then we'll run the rest of the bolts in. Okay, now that we've got the gasket on both sides here of this unit, we're going to take the little gasket out of the bag and we're going to install this little Venturi tube right into the side right here. So let's go ahead and put a little gasket material around here, and then we'll bolt this right into the side here of the funnel. Now the wide part is going to be toward the smaller end of the funnel here. And lift it up and run your bolts into place. Now be careful once you have this tightened down and don't rest it onto that tube. You'll want to set it just like that. Okay, so now what we've got here is the flexible rubber hose. And the flexible rubber hose will attach to the bottom side of this Venturi tube right here. Go ahead and pre-install the clamp to make it easy. Make sure your clamp is loose. Slide this in place. And then finally tighten it with a screwdriver. And you can do this now, you can do it later, but it's way easier to do this now on the bench. Now it's time to take the Cyclone funnel and bolt it out to the bottom of the cylinder barrel here. Now we want to make sure that we observe the tag here. We can remove this at this time because we're going to take care of this. This says to align the 2 welds, and we're going to align the weld that's on the inside of the barrel to the inside of this funnel right here. And we're going to make sure that those 2 align. So we can remove the tag, and then we're going to go through and bolt the funnel in place. Now this one is going to be not just the bolts, but we're going to use the bolts. They're going to come through, and then we'll have a nut and washer on the bottom side. Let's lift this up. We'll align the 2 welds and get this set in place. Now that they're all finger tight, I'm going to secure them with a ratchet and get ready for the next step. Now that we've got the Cyclone assembled, it's finally time to bring the roller base back in, and we're going to mount this base to the upper structure here using these columns that we put on before. We'll make sure that the little insert nuts actually fit right into the holes at the bottom of these columns. Let's go ahead and tip this over onto its side and bring it to place. It'll be flimsy at this point in time, but we're going to install some stiffener plates to go through and tie it all together. I like to start with the bottom one first lining up and making sure that the heads of the insert nuts are into those holes. And then insert the bolts from the top with a washer. Now tighten the bolts down with a ratchet. And repeat on the other columns. Now you'll know that these insert nuts are fitting directly into the upper structure here when this sets flat and flush together. Now you're going to find 3 of these upright support reinforcement plates, and we're going to install these to where they straddle that joint that we just created. Make sure that they fit right over the insert nuts, and then install 4 bolts into each plate. Now we'll repeat the process on the other 2 reinforcement plates. Okay, now I've got these reinforcement plates all tightened down, and now these legs are really stiff, and this has kind of become one unit. Now with those reinforcement plates tightened down, the entire unit is ready to stand up, and this is heavy. This is real heavy. So get a friend or 2 or 3 to help you lift this up in place, or if you have an overhead lift that can help you out, that might be a good time to use that as well. You want to be careful not to dent the sheet metal doors that are on the side as you're lifting this up. You don't want to lift on the doors, you want to lift from the framework of the machine. So get a hand, lift it up. I'm going to go ahead and get the helper here, and I'm going to lift this unit to the upright position. Locate the package marked canister shield for the hardware, and also the canister shield. Now nobody likes a noisy dust collector, and so what we've done on the P-Flux series is we've added this sound dampening baffling on the inside of the cabinet, and you'll see that there's some doors that will surround the filter assembly here. And if you open these up, you'll see that they're lined with this foam all the way around, and this really dampens the sound quite a bit. It's a dramatic effect on this dust collector. So we've got these already set up on the doors that came installed. We're going to take this baffle, this little shield, and we're going to install it right up in this position here. In order to bolt these in place, you're going to depress the foam a little bit and put the bolt and washer on the inside, and that'll bolt to the frame of the cabinet. Sometimes it's nice to get into your work. You can actually stand inside here and get these bolts in place. Okay, got the last bolt tightened there. Now that we've got the panel secured inside, it's time to put on the top cover plate. Now locate the canister cover plate and the associated screws that go with it. We're going to use this to install on the top. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, or you can use a screwdriver tip on a little drill driver, but you want to have the torque setting set to the lowest. I'm just preloading these screws up here. We're at the top of the machine, and I've got our cover plate installed. You want to install it with the flat lip down, and I'm ready to tighten this down. You want to have a good stool to get yourself up here, and you can use a hand screwdriver or you can use your drill driver. Just set it on the lowest setting. I'm going to go ahead and get these tightened down. There's our last one. The next part is to go through and install the pressure switch, and that's in this hole right here. You want to get some of your 2-sided tape and just apply a little bead of it around the bottom. I've already gone through and put my tape on this. This will simply drop in place in the hole on the top here. And there's 4 little screws. Again, you can set this in with the drill driver. You just want to make sure that you're on the lowest setting so you don't strip out the sheet metal here. This is the standout feature here, or one of the standout features I should say, on the P-Flux system. This is the HEPA filtration system here, the HEPA filter. It's a cartridge filter, and it's clearly marked with the HEPA logo here on the outside. That way you don't forget, or no one else is going to replace this with something else or throw it away. You want to make sure that this faces outwards, out through the doors when you install it. And before you go through and install it, take this rubber lip on the top here and just sort of bend it out or roll it outwards. And this will give you a little bit of taper to the top rim here so you can install it easier on the machine. If you're in a cold climate, take a little hair dryer to this one and just gently heat it so that you can bend this outwards. And this will make it a little bit easier on you when you go through to install it. Just simply roll it outwards. The other thing we want to pay attention to here is the clamp. And this clamp, you want to make sure it's in the loose position, or you can even have it off when you install it and bring it back around. This clamp has got what they call a key bolt, and it's called a key bolt because it looks kind of like a key. and that's how you adjust it, by simply churning it to tighten it or to loosen it. And you'll get this pre-adjusted before you put it on. You may have to make an adjustment once you get it in place just to make sure that it's secure and that your HEPA filter is secure to the machine. Now open both of the cabinet doors to give you plenty of access, and bring your HEPA filter cartridge in and set it right onto the grid plate on the bottom. And now we can line it up and then gently bring it up. You may want to have somebody help you do this to hold it in place as you get your clamp tightened. Okay, now we've got this latch firmly fixed in place here. It'll take a bit of force, and you want to be careful not to pinch your finger. That's why I'll do it with the palm of my hand against the latch. Now you've got your HEPA indicator here facing out. Everyone's going to know that you have the most sophisticated filtering unit on the block. Now find the bag that says intake splitter, and what it has is it actually has the caps for the intake splitter. Stretch these out a little bit, and this is going to go over your filter canister can here on the bottom. This is called the cap, and this will be the bottom of the HEPA filter. And then gently roll this onto the port on here, and this will be the plug that seals off the end cap. Now bring your HEPA filter cap into the machine down here on the grid, and then hold it up into place. You can probably do this by yourself. It might not hurt to have a hand. Okay, these are spring-loaded latches. Bring them up, gently engage them. Don't push them down until you have all four of them in place. Now you're ready to latch them down. And we've really designed this machine to be easily serviceable. And one of the things that you'll notice on the HEPA filter cap down here is that it has a sight window. And this lets you know when you have a lot of debris that's built up on the inside. As you're filtering out the dust from your shop, it'll get trapped in the filter, and occasionally you'll go through and clean the filter. And you can have a little dust in the bottom here, but when this gets full, it's time to clean it out. And you can tell that it's time to clean it out by the window, but when it comes time to clean it out, we've made that easy as well. You'll simply spin the unit around, and on the opposite side where we put this cap in, you'll simply remove the cap, and you can get in here with a shop vac or just put a hose on here and go through and vacuum out any dust that might be inside. If it's really bad and plugged up, you can actually simply remove it using the latches, but for the most part you should never have to remove that. The next piece to install are these little triangle support brackets. There are two of those, and we've already had this bag open. It's marked right here, the triangle support panel, and you'll use the hardware in this bag. Let's go ahead and put them on the frame. Now we're up here at the open end of the frame, and we'll take this triangle support bracket and just drop it right over the shoulder of the insert nuts. Then drop the bolts in and secure it in place. Repeat this process on the other side. Okay, I'm just installing the other side now. Make sure that the smooth side is toward the outside of the machine. Now we're going to install what they call the foot pedal bar, and you'll locate the bag of hardware called foot pedal bar, and there'll be these two side pieces, these uprights, and the brackets that install those. As you install these, you want to make sure that this swinging linkage goes toward the inside of the machine. There's a left and a right. So this one will install in this direction. This will be the right hand one, and that linkage will be on the inside. Let's take these over to the machine. These bottom two holes are going to engage the triangle bracket that we just installed. Just brought the bar over here to the machine. Here's the triangle bracket that we just installed, and this is going to fit up in place right here, and the top is going to fit up into the channel on the machine, and we're going to leave the top loose as we're installing this. This is a support bracket that's going to cap the inside, and then finally we're going to bring these two long bolts from the outside to the inside, and then we'll secure this with a washer and a nut. Now we're here at the other side. We'll get this one installed in place. One thing just to note is that as you're installing the hardware, to get it finger tight only, you'll want to leave it loose until we have the upper brackets in place as well. Now these are the support brackets for the upper side of that plate, and you'll notice that they have a square hole. And in that square hole, the carriage bolt with the square shoulder will fit in there. And we've got corresponding square holes on the side frames, the upright supports of the machine. Let's go ahead and bring these brackets in and show you where they mount. So we've got the support bracket here and then the two long bolts, and we're going to bolt it to the bottom of this bracket. I find that it's easiest just to pre-install the bolts right to the top, let gravity hold those in place, bring the bracket up from the bottom, and then finally secure it in place with a nut and a washer on the bottom of each of these bolts. Now we've got the carriage bolt with the square shoulder, and it's going to go through the square hole right here. So simply move the bracket until it's in place behind it, feed the carriage bolt through, secure it with a nut and washer on the back side, and then what we'll do is we'll put one more of these in, and once you've got both of the carriage bolts in place, then you're ready to go through and tighten up these bolts, the other two long bolts there, and then the ones on the bottom. Let's go ahead and get them all in place. We'll run these down with a wrench, and then we'll repeat the same process on the other side. Now tighten all 6 of the bolts that we just installed down. Now that we have these mechanisms all secured in place, we're going to bring these side cover pieces. And this really makes it look nice. It's almost like a fender on a car now. We're going to go ahead and bolt this in place and have this thing looking good. Now we've got these side cover panels on there, and not only do they look great, but they actually add some reinforcement here for the frame of the machine. These are really sharp. Let's go ahead and rotate this in this direction, and we're going to install the octagonal bar, and these lever arms are going to go up, and they're going to drop right over these little lugs that are on the inside of the bars that we just installed a few moments ago. And we'll simply compress this a little bit, slide it over, and now we'll just let that hang right on down. Now you want to find these little support rollers and then the tapered screws here as well, the little machine screws. Now these are going to slide right over that little post that we installed the foot pedal on, and then that tapered screw is going to go in there and hold that in place. And you'll install one on this side and then one on the other side, and then you're going to grab an Allen wrench and secure those in place. Now locate the small shoulder bolt and the lock nut in your parts bag, and we're going to use this shoulder bolt and we'll put it right through the linkage that's been laying loose, and we're going to use this nut on the inside, and we're going to bring it right through the hole in this bar. The reason that you've got a lock nut on this is you're going to want to correctly set the tension on this. You'll tighten this down, but leave it loose enough to where you still have a little bit of a motion on it, or a pivot on it. You don't want to tighten it down so tight that it binds up. We'll repeat the process on the other side. Now that we've got the linkage attached here, you can kind of test the bar and make sure that this goes up and down smoothly. You don't want them so loose that they rattle around, but you don't want them so tight that this bar binds up at all. And that's fantastic. We're going to leave this in the up position, and we'll get ready to do the next step. Now you want to find the octagonal lid here. This will be the lid for the drum, and you want to make sure that this gasket is pressed firmly in place and ready to go. Let's go ahead and take this over to the machine, and we're going to install this on the bottom of the Cyclone funnel. Now we're ready to install the octagonal lid here for the drum up onto the bottom here of the funnel for the Cyclone. And we've left this tag in place until just now, so what we're going to do is we're going to remove the tag, and the instruction here on the tag says that we want to go through and install these bolts up on the top, but we want to leave them loose, leave them finger tight. And the reason that we leave them finger tight is that this plate will rotate a little bit until they're completely tightened down, and that allows us to perfectly align the lid. There's 2 holes that are in the back here. We want to make sure that they go toward the back or toward the filter assembly as we install this. Simply drop a bolt in to one of the holes and let gravity work for you to hold it in place. Bring the lid in, and then simply put a nut and a washer on the bottom, and then once that's in place, you can get the rest of the nuts and bolts in place. Now I've got all the nuts and bolts installed on this lid, but I've left them, again, finger tight, because I want this to be able to pivot and to swivel here a little bit so that when I get the drum in here, I can perfectly align this to the drum and have the sides parallel, so it makes it really easy to go up and down. Now just behind the switch panel right here, there's a little box, and coming out of that you'll find this sensor. And this is the dust level sensor, and it's part of the smart drum system here on the Flux dust collector. And what this is going to do is going to fit into the top of the drum, one of those little holes that we just saw. And this will detect how full your drum is. And when your drum is getting too full, it'll kick the light on over here and tell you it's time to empty your drum. Now to install the sensor, simply remove the nut. And you'll see that this sensor's got threads all the way up and down the body of it. When you install it in here, you don't want to have the tip of this protruding beyond the lip of the lid. So it's just going to barely go inside. So I'm going to adjust this one down a little bit first, and then fit it in there, and then bring the nut in from the bottom. Now you want to double check the bottom of this sensor. It wants to come down a little bit, but you don't want it to go any deeper than the rim of the lid. And the way to check that is just to bring a straight edge up underneath it, or a piece of scrap with a little board, and make sure that it doesn't protrude down beyond the lip. If it does, it won't detect correctly. If it is down further, go ahead and raise it up a little bit. Now that it's properly adjusted, go ahead and lock the nuts in place. And another method of installing the sensor is to do it out here before you install the lid. Just simply put it in place, check to make sure it's not too deep, and then install the lid. Once you start using your Cyclone, you may want to fine-tune the adjustment for the barrel waste, and you might want to increase or decrease if your barrel is getting too full or not filling up enough. There's a small white plastic screwdriver that you can locate in the parts bag, and you'll simply put the small end of it right into the little side of the switch right here, the sensor, and you can rotate it. And you'll want to rotate it clockwise for less waste in the drum, or counterclockwise for a higher waste level inside your drum. Now this is the fitting for the negative pressure system, and this fits on top of the drum. Right now I'll go ahead and install the gasket on this, and then we can go install it onto the drum lid. Now bring the negative pressure adapter onto the top of the lid, and then secure it with the 2 bolts supplied. Now install the other clamp onto the end of the black flexible tube. Slide it onto the end of the negative pressure adapter, and then finally secure it with a screwdriver. We're going to go through and start the drum assembly. We'll start with the base unit. So find the octagonal piece here for the base unit, the 4 casters. Make sure that you've got 2 wrenches lined up, and then your octagon drum bag for your hardware. Now each caster is going to need 2 washers and 1 nut. 1 washer will go on first. The caster will come up from the bottom. Next, a 2nd washer. And what that's going to do is it's going to stiffen up the joint there between the plate and the caster and keep this thing really rock solid. Get the nut on there, and it'll take 2 wrenches, one to hold the nut that's part of the caster itself, and then the other one here will go through and tighten up the top. Go ahead and repeat this process to get all 4 casters on. Alright, now that we've got the casters on the base, let's get the side pieces and get them ready. Now what you want to do is lay out 3 sides here, and you want to lay out the 3 sides that have these left and right markings, and get the corresponding sides all set up here. Locate the bag with the screws, get yourself a screwdriver. You can do this with a screwdriver, but there's a lot of screws right here, so we're going to go through and just use a little drill driver, and make sure that you have the setting on this one set down to low so you don't strip it out. This is just going into sheet metal. Let's go ahead and get these units stood up. We'll bring the side panels in place and go ahead and screw it together. Left to left and right to right, and make sure that the side comes over the front piece right here, and then start your screws and run them into place. Now for the right side. Sure to line up your holes. Now find the bag that has these little plastic caps in it. These little rubber caps are going to go over the insides of these screws on the inside here, and that way they won't tear up your bag. So just simply take this little cap and bring it right up and push them right onto the insides of those screws. There's one. Go ahead and repeat this for all the screws on the inside. Right now, while the back is still off, it's a great time to install the handles here on the front of your smart drum. So locate these handles in a bag. Each one of them will take 2 of the bolts with washers on them, and then finally the little acorn cap nuts that are going to go on the front. Simply bring the bolts in from the back. And slide the handle onto the front of those bolts. Now hold the little cap nut in the front with your finger as you turn the screw in from the back side. Now tighten each one of these screws down with a screwdriver. And repeat the process for the top handle. Now that those are installed, we can flip this around. And then we're going to install our little lift brackets that go onto the side of the unit here. Now to install these lift brackets on the side of the drum, you'll need to use 3 carriage bolts, the nuts and the washers that go with them. The lift brackets will install on the outside. Simply put your carriage bolt through the unit. Bring it through the side of the machine. Install your washer and then nut. Put all 3 bolts in and then repeat the process on the other side. Now that we've got the front entire half of the smart drum assembled, we're going to go through and put the back half on. I've got it flipped upside down, and you'll notice that all the small holes that mount the bottom plate on are upwards in the top position. But before we install the back, I'm going to go through and just set this down, and we're going to introduce a new item here. And this is the negative pressure tube, and this is the system that's going to deliver the vacuum to hold the bag in place. And we'll go through that once we get this installed, but we need to put this on. We need to add some of that foam tape here to the bottom. So let's go ahead and grab our foam tape and simply give the vacuum tube here just a quick little amount of this foam tape around the opening here. This will deliver the vacuum to the smart drum and hold your bag in place. Now I've got the foam tape around the bottom here where the hole is, and we'll just flip this upside down. This is going to go toward the bottom where the base holes are, and we're going to use these carriage bolts and just drop them right through the square shoulder holes here. Now what we're going to do is use this reinforcement plate. The reinforcement plate is going to go on the top set of holes. That'll go in place, and then finally we'll fasten everything with the nuts and washers. Now that the negative pressure tube is installed, let's go ahead and rotate it down to where all the screw holes are in the up position. We'll line up with the back with the sides, and finally we're going to go ahead and screw this together. And finally, the bottom plate needs to get installed. We'll line this up with the holes, and this is a good time just to start a few of these screws, but not necessarily get them all the way tight until you have them all in. All right, now we've got the drum assembled. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Right now is a good time to finish off and put the remaining little caps over the tips of those screws. You may also want to take a little bit of silicone, just plain old clear silicone, and just go over the joints on the inside. That way you know you've got an airtight seal for your smart drum, and that'll help to improve the performance ever so slightly. All right, now that we have all the little caps in, we're going to install the gasket. The gasket has 2 sides, one that has a little groove in the side with little metal on top and bottom, and then the top of it, which is really flexible, and this will go up toward the lid of the drum. Let's go ahead and just shove this onto the lip and you'll just press it right into place and work your way around the perimeter of your smart drum. Make sure that you tuck the corners in tightly. And finally, once you reach the end of the run here, you're going to have a little bit of an overlap. Mark it with your finger or your thumb. Get out your snips and just snip off the excess.
Rolling.
And okay, now we're ready to go. This is ready to drop in the machine. Now that we've got the upper gasket done, let's go ahead and set the drum on the floor. And we'll bring in the vacuum suction ring and drop this in place on the back. This will disperse the vacuum all the way around the bottom of the bag. Now locate the two little guard handles that go onto the side of the control panel right here, the switch panel. And in order to install these, we'll simply back out the screws that hold the switch panel in place, and then the fasteners will come in from the back side. And here's the last screw. You only have to take out these little 4 corner screws. You don't have to remove the top and bottom ones. Those are just there for location. Now just start the screw through the hole in the back side and hold it in position while you bring the handle up front. Make sure that you do this with the power disconnected from the machine. You don't want to have the power live as you're inside the switch box. These are really a nice finishing touch. They don't have these on during shipping because they don't have any type of damage here to the switch or to the handles. Okay, now we've got those reattached. Those are nice guards that keeps you from inadvertently hitting the switch on or off. Now before we install the drum, we're going to go through and secure the junction box, and this is where all the wires come together on the inside. It's held in place with 2 screws that are here inside the junction box bag. We'll simply go ahead and bolt it right to the stiffening bracket that we installed earlier. Now here's something to think about before you mount this box up here. You can actually tuck these wires behind the reinforcement plate and in the channel of the uprights. I've taken the front 2 bolts out and I've loosened the back ones, and this simply will pivot forward. I can tuck those wires in and put them in the channel, and I'll just reinstall the bolts. Now it's time to slide the drum in the machine to test fit it. Ease it on in, press down your bar, and it should pull the drum right up to meet the bottom of the lid. Now that we have the smart drum in place, it's time to do our final fitment. And remember, we left these bolts loose. And the reason that we did that is just so you can fine-tune the adjustment of the lid. You can turn it back and forth and get the alignment on it perfect. You're going to align it to make sure that it's parallel with the sides of the machine, and you're also going to align it so that in the back side that the negative pressure tube is engaged as you raise the drum up. You can see that by pushing the handle down, that it lifts the wheels of the smart drum right off the ground, and as we roll the unit, that the drum is not even contacting the ground, so the entire weight is being carried by the Cyclone frame. Now that we've got the machine in this position, we're ready to figure out how we're going to get the dust into the machine. And there's several different ways. There's 3 different ways to get it in. First of all, we've got an 8-inch inlet, and you can bring a main 8-inch trunk line coming into your machine and then do drops to individual machines. The other way to do it is to use a reducer, and the machine is supplied with a reducer that'll go in the front, and that drops it down from 8 inches to 6 inches, and you can run a 6-inch line. Another way to do it is to use the splitter. It's supplied with a splitter, and the splitter's got 2 different openings, and these are for 4-inch hoses, and this will simply slide onto the front of the machine here, and then you can connect your 4-inch hoses to it. Anytime that you use the adapters, inside the intake splitter bag, you'll find that there's some small screws that will go through and attach it around the perimeter of the inlet pipe. There's also a couple of plugs, and these plugs, one of them we installed down on the bottom, the other one will come right up here to the front of the intake splitter, so we can run 1 hose at a time, or we can run 2. Now installing the bag in your Flux Cyclone is super easy. You simply roll this out, drop it into the smart drum, and fold the lip over. And as you do this, the bag will stay in here, and when you turn the unit on, the negative pressure from here will suck the bag down and hold it in place as you're using the unit. Now your Flux Cyclone is going to arrive without a plug, and depending on if it's 110 volts or 220 volts will determine the connections. This is a 220 volt since it's a 2 horsepower, and that'll mean that you have a ground and you're going to have 2 hot legs, and this will be 220 volts, 110 to each leg, and then this will be grounded. You'll need to install a plug that matches your shop installation. You might have a NEMA style plug, or you might have a twist lock plug that you want to install. So if you can put the plug on yourself, do so. If not, call a qualified electrician to install one for you. Well, we've got the assembly all complete and everything looks great. And that's going to conclude our setup video here today for the Flux Cyclone Dust Collection Systems. And this will cover all 3 models. There'll be some small changes between each one of them, but we've covered all the basics on this for you. If you have any questions regarding the Flux or any of our products, don't hesitate to give us a call. You can reach us toll-free at 800-234-1976. Or you can look us up on the web at lagunatools.com. Now this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's see how this thing performs.